So Russia says the situation in West Zaporizhia continues to get worse. And you know why? Because they lied about progress again and are again paying for it in blood. I mean, how many times are we going to see this? When lines move a little bit on a map, it really doesn't mean anything to you or I or anyone not on the battlefield. But when they're off by 10 to 20 kilometers and are being used to plan missions, a lot can go wrong. In fact, let's start with that. So the BBC just came out with a report talking about this concept of Russia taking territory on credit. And what that means, in short, is the Russian commanders are lying. They say they have success somewhere when they haven't, and they report it up the chain of command. Everybody repeats that. It gets marked on the map as under Russian control, and everybody up down the chain of command hopes that actually that credit is resolved and they do take that territory before anyone figures out that they're lying. Now, if the lines are rapidly moving in one direction or another, that's something you might be able to get away with. It's not good, right? Puts the soldiers on the ground in a very difficult situation, and more on that here in a second. But you might be able to get away with it if the lines are generally advancing in a certain direction. The problem that Russia is facing, especially in the area we're looking at today, West Zaporizhia, is they are not advancing. They are losing terrain, but at the same time, reporting progress. So it's getting worse by the day. The BBC comparison here used two different maps. We'll put these up on the screen. The first is from Deep State and ISW, or the Institute for the Study of War. And they have the red area here as being held by Russia and diagonal lines as the contested space. They compared that with a map from the Russian 58th Army, the unit responsible for this area, showing what is being reported up through the Russian Ministry of Defense. And the website that we'll have linked in the description below actually has this little slider so you can go back and forth and see the differences. And it's staggering. I mean, according to the BBC, they said the differences between the objective control footage that has been verified of where forces are in certain areas and what the Russian Ministry of Defense is reporting can be the difference between 10 and 20 kilometers. Like, that's unsustainable. I don't know how else to say it. You can't fight like that. You can't operate normal life if your GPS is off by 10, let alone 20 kilometers. But in an area like the front lines in Ukraine, less than 1 kilometer not knowing where you are can be the matter of life or death. That's it. Like 1 kilometer can be the difference between you're in range of Ukrainian drones versus under the protection of Russian electronic warfare. 1 kilometer can mean you are in range of Ukrainian artillery or not. 20? Come on. You just can't function like that. Now, to give you an idea of how drastic some of these claims are, I want to pull up a map. We're going to use Syriac map to run through some of these Russian Ministry of Defense claims. And the reason I'm using Syriac is that, in my opinion, this is a mapping service that is a little more forgiving or a little more open to some of the Russian claims when they make them. But even Syriac is looking at this going, guys, we can't, come on. That's just made up. We can't put that on here. So looking at this, we've got some assessments, again, from the BBC article. They say that Rykny, all the way up here in the north, was taken by Russia on January 30th. They say Velisyanka, a little bit to the east here, was taken by Russia on March 4th. All right, this is well outside of Russian territorial control. And then on February 15th, the Russian forces here just had a field day. They took Primorsk, Maldanivka, and Zaporizhia. This entire area, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, is under the control of the Russian military. And it's not. It's just detached from reality. Like, I don't know what else to say about that at all. And this is one of the reasons that we're starting to see more and more Russian reports of saying, wait a minute, the situation in West Zaporizhia is difficult. Yeah, it's difficult. You think you control a significantly larger territory than you actually do. So, like, they're losing soldiers in places that they say they have claimed or took over months ago. That's going to be a problem. It's not going to look good, right? And it's causing some issues up the chain of command. Now, what's interesting here is Russia is advancing in certain areas, just not here. So for whatever reason, they keep lying in some locations at the front. Other locations at the front, they objectively are moving forward. I mean, we have seen Russian gains recently in Konstantinivka. Talked about that in a couple of different videos. There have been Russian gains in places like Liman, East Zaporizhia even, not very far from the area we're focused on today. But for any number of reasons, the chain of command down here in West Zaporizhia is like, no, just keep painting more areas red. Every day is a success. We're winning left, right, and center. And the problem that this poses, and we're starting to see Ukraine actually take advantage of this, is it puts the soldiers on the ground in a very difficult situation. So, for instance, there's a lot of fighting right now in Stepnohorsk. We've actually got some footage from the Ukrainian GUR talking about an ambush of Russian VDV trying to move through this area. So heavy fighting here. But according to Russian maps, they control, a significant portion. What are we talking? Probably another 3-4 miles north of that. So if you're sending forces to reinforce Rykny, they've got to move through straight up territory held by Ukraine, not even contested, just held by Ukraine. Another key aspect here is as they're moving into that fight, they're going to be limited on what they can request in terms of air support or artillery. Because at some point, somebody's going to question, wait a minute, why are you calling air support? Why are you calling for artillery strikes or drone support in our own area? What are the Ukrainians doing behind our lines? Was there an attack? How did they get there? Like, no, it's just how the map has always been. It's just not lining up exactly with the lies being told at the Russian Ministry of Defense. So turning to Rybar, we've got their map here they published recently talking about the situation in this direction. They said, quote, in West Zaporizhia, the situation continues to deteriorate consistently. New evidence of the advance of the Ukrainian formations into the gray zone and attempts to gain a foothold on the approaches to the Kamyansky have appeared. According to incoming data, Ukrainian forces have finally occupied Primorsk and are now using it as a staging point for further pressure on Plavny. From there, small groups of the enemy are entering the populated areas through dried-up riverbeds and the former reservoir bed, trying to infiltrate without heavy weapons and unnecessary noise. So just to be clear, the Russian report here is they're freaking out because Primorsky, there's elements of Ukraine in Primorsk. What are they doing? Like, this is such a drastic miss from reality. Like, there's a PR side to war, I got it, and there's psyops and there's information operations, but like, this is the type of thing that is hard to fully grasp because it doesn't do anyone any good. When Russia is lying to themselves about this progress, they end up looking at areas that are not and have not been, to my knowledge, ever, if not for a long time, under Russian control, and they're saying, wait a minute, what are the Ukrainian forces doing there? How did they get there? They must be building up. When did this happen? Like, it hasn't changed. That's what it has been. Imagine being the soldier on the ground trying to deal with that. And we're seeing that. Soldiers are, for lack of a better term, being sacrificed to try to keep this lie alive. In fact, we just got some footage a couple days ago from the Ukrainian GUR, where they said at the end of May 2026, the Russian occupation army sent reconnaissance units of their VDV special forces to storm the village of Stepnohorsk in the Zaporizhia region. So again, Stepnohorsk, this northernmost town that is heavily contested right now. They say the aim of the invaders was to create a propaganda picture of the supposed occupation of the settlement, with a subsequent report to the top leaders of the aggressor state. Under the cover of night, rainy weather, and anti-thermal cloaks, the enemy group managed to infiltrate into Stepnohorsk. However, the stormtroopers of the special unit Artan were ready. They followed the enemy to get closer and lured them into an ambush. Before engaging in battle, they offered the Russians the opportunity to surrender, but instead of surrendering, they opened fire. The specific area was cleared of all of these elite VDV fighters, and the flags from which they planned to be photographed with became trophies of the Ukrainian military intelligence. So again, we're seeing this across the front is the flag raising ceremony, one guy working his way through, raising a flag, and they say, hey, look, evidence, confirmation, we hold that territory. Well, at some point you lose it, and you have to do it again. And that's what they're talking about is VDV forces moving through here. Maybe their aim was Stepnohorsk. Maybe their aim was further north. Either way, they're still seeing flag planting operations carried out with these small infiltration groups in territory that, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, they have held for months. And it's not anything new. We've got Russian mill blogger Maxim Klishnikov venting about this recently as well, where he said, quote, our propagandists show a picture where a Russian soldier is waving a flag in the middle of a completely destroyed settlement. For the soldier, this is indeed an important and somewhat joyful event. But how many guys were killed while breaking through to this settlement? None of the propagandists will say, but this is how we fight. So it's creating a problem that is getting worse by the day. Nobody wants to own up the chain of command to say, well, actually, that was a lie. Actually, we don't hold that territory. So you end up with a gray zone, maybe is the right way to put it. It's just completely made up, where Russian maps do not line up with reality. In fact, the maps that are being shown, be it Suryak or Rybar or from some of the mill bloggers, tend to be much more accurate. I mean, there's minor differences between those and what you see on Deep State and ISW. The Suryak, the Rybar, and even other Russian mill bloggers have much more accurate mapping services than the Russian Ministry of Defense. And if you have Russian units using these fake maps, it's just not, they can't. Again, they're sacrificing soldiers, trying to take territory that they claim was taken months ago. It's staggering that this is still happening today, but it is. Now, I want to give you guys a quick update on a collaboration we recently kicked off with Ziggispog. Great organization. We've got some shirts with a new drone design. So it's a number of Ukrainian drones, the FP2, Vampire, Python, and others. We got the shirt built under fire right on the front. Back has the drone designs. We've got these on posters too. So blue and orange posters, a couple different sizes. This is an exclusive collaboration with these guys. So Ziggis Paw, awesome organization. We've worked with them a number of times in this channel. Got another one lined up here soon. Excited to announce in the next couple weeks, hopefully. But what we're doing is our store is hosting the design, and then 100% of the profits go directly to Ziggis Paw to support their organization and their ongoing fundraisers. So for anybody interested, you can check that out at the link in the description and pinned comment below. But that's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.